The night was quiet and Daniel sat alone in his small apartment, staring at the pile of unpaid bills on the table. Life had been hard for him lately. He had lost his job at the factory, and finding work was nearly impossible now. He lived in a world where humans were told every day that they must obey the new government rules, no matter how strange those rules were. That evening, as the clock ticked past midnight, a knock came at his door. It was soft at first, then louder, steady, like someone who would not leave until he answered. Daniel frowned. Who could be visiting him at this hour? He opened the door slowly, his heart beating fast. On the ground lay an envelope stamped with the seal of the Earth Union government. His hand shook as he picked it up. The paper felt heavy, important, dangerous. Daniel sat down and opened the envelope. Inside was a letter written in bold letters. It said, "Citizen Daniel Carter, by law of the Earth Union government. You have been assigned companions, 3 alien wives, chosen for your care and protection. You are required to accept this responsibility immediately. Refusal is not allowed. Enforcement officers will monitor compliance." Daniel read the letter again and again, his eyes wide, his breath short. Alien wives. Assigned by the government? It sounded like a joke, a cruel prank, but the seal was real, the government's red crest shining on the paper. He dropped the letter on the table, his mind spinning. Why him? He was nobody, a man with no money, no job, no family. Why would the government give him something like this? Before he could think more, there was another knock at the door. This time louder, firmer. Daniel froze. His chest tight, he slowly opened the door, and what he saw made his blood run cold. 3 figures stood outside, tall and silent, their eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. They were not human. Their skin carried soft colors that shimmered like moonlight. One had silver hair that fell like water. Another had deep blue skin with golden patterns, and the third had pale violet eyes that seemed to see through him. They wore long coats that covered their bodies, and each carried a small bag. For a moment, no one spoke. The silence stretched finally. The one with silver hair stepped forward, her voice low, soft, but filled with something he could not name. "Daniel Carter?" she asked. He nodded, unable to find words. She handed him a second paper, stamped with the same government seal. It simply said, "They are now yours. Protect them, care for them. The future depends on it." Daniel's mouth went dry. His heart pounded like a drum. He stepped back, letting them inside. The 3 alien women entered quietly, their movements graceful yet tense. They looked around his small apartment, their glowing eyes filled with caution, maybe even fear. Daniel tried to speak, but his voice cracked. I don't understand. Why are you here? Why me?" None of them answered. They only exchanged glances with each other, as if deciding how much truth they could share. The one with violet eyes finally whispered, "Because you were chosen." Her words were heavy, carrying more meaning than she explained. Daniel wanted to ask more, but at that moment he noticed something strange. On the ceiling corner of his apartment, a small red light blinked. A hidden camera. His stomach twisted. He understood now. He was being watched. The government was not just giving him alien wives. They were monitoring every second, every breath. But why? The blue-skinned woman placed her bag gently on the floor and spoke for the first time, her voice trembling. "You must follow the rules. Do not resist. Do not ask too many questions, please, for your own safety." Her words sounded like both a warning and a plea. Daniel felt his world collapsing. One moment he was a broke man with nothing. The next he was given alien wives and told to obey. This was no gift, this was a trap, but what kind of trap? And why did the alien women look more like prisoners than wives? The silence grew heavier. The women sat close together on the couch, whispering in a language Daniel did not know, their glowing patterns flickering faintly like signals. He stood still, feeling like an intruder in his own home. The air was thick with mystery, danger, and a secret he was not meant to know. That night Daniel could not sleep. He sat awake, staring at the government letter, the blinking camera, and the 3 alien women who were now his wives. Something deep inside him whispered that his life had been pushed into a game he could not escape, and destiny had already set its eyes on him. The morning sun crept through the broken blinds of Daniel's apartment. He barely slept that night, his mind heavy with the government letter and the strange women now inside his home. He rubbed his eyes and looked toward the couch, where the 3 alien women sat quietly, their posture straight, their expressions unreadable. It was as if they had been awake all night too. Watching, waiting, Daniel cleared his throat, trying to break the silence. Do you want something to eat?" he asked, his voice rough. The woman with silver hair, the one who had spoken first last night, gave a small nod. "Yes, food," she said, her tone calm but distant. Daniel moved toward the kitchen, pulling out bread and a jar of cheap peanut butter. The only food he had left, he placed it on the table, embarrassed by how little he could offer. The blue-skinned woman touched the bread carefully as if it were something rare. She whispered something in her own language to the others, and they nodded slowly. They ate quietly, never complaining. But Daniel noticed something in their eyes, hunger deeper than food, hunger for freedom. It made his chest tighten. After a long silence, the violet-eyed woman finally spoke. "You must know the rules," she said. Her words soft but firm. Daniel frowned. "Rules?" The letter didn't say much. "What rules?" She leaned closer, her glowing eyes sharp. "The government gave us to you, but we are not truly free. They watch us through the cameras. They watch you too. There are things you must never do." Daniel swallowed hard, his eyes moving to the red blinking light in the ceiling. "What happens if I break the rules?" The blue-skinned woman lowered her gaze, her hands trembling slightly. "They take us back," she whispered. "And they take you too." Daniel felt his stomach twist. "What kind of rules are we talking about?" The silver-haired woman answered this time, her voice steady. "Rule 1, you must not refuse us shelter. Rule 2, you must not ask questions about why we are here. Rule 3, you must never try to hide us or escape with us. Rule 4, she paused, her voice dropping lower. "You must never fall in love with us." Daniel blinked in shock. Never fall in love? Why would that even be a rule? The three women looked at each other, their glowing patterns flickering across their skin like nervous signals. None of them answered. Daniel leaned back, his mind spinning again. He wanted to argue, to demand answers, but the camera above reminded him he was not safe. Still, he couldn't hold his tongue. "You're not wives," he said quietly, almost to himself. "You're prisoners." The blue-skinned woman flinched, her eyes darting to the camera. "Do not say that," she hissed under her breath. "They will hear." The tension in the room grew heavier, like invisible chains tightening around them all. Daniel's chest burned with anger, but also pity. These women were not here by choice. They were trapped just like him, maybe worse later that day. A sharp knock echoed through the apartment again. Daniel froze. The alien women sat up straight, their eyes filled with sudden fear. He opened the door slowly, and there stood two government officers, dressed in black uniforms with silver badges. One of them handed Daniel a small device. "This is your compliance tracker," the officer said, his voice cold. "It records your actions. You will wear it at all times." Daniel held the device, a black band that looked like a bracelet. "What happens if I take it off?" he asked. The officer's lips curved into a thin smile. "Don't." The officer's eyes moved inside the apartment. Landing on the alien women, they stood silently, heads bowed, as if trained to appear obedient. The officer gave a final warning. "Remember the rules, Carter. Break them, and you'll lose more than just them." With that, they turned and left, the door closing with a heavy thud. Daniel slipped the bracelet on, feeling the weight of it like a shackle. The silver-haired woman whispered, "Now you are one of us." Her words sent a shiver down his spine. That night, Daniel sat at the table with the women, trying to speak, trying to understand. The violet-eyed one stared at him for a long moment before saying, "You think this is a gift? But it is not. It is a test, and those who fail." She stopped, her face pale, her eyes filled with something close to terror. Daniel leaned forward, his voice low. "What happens to those who fail?" She looked at him with sorrow. "They disappear. No one remembers them." Daniel's hands curled into fists, anger and fear mixing inside him. He looked at the three women. So different, so strange, yet so broken. He did not know what destiny had planned, but one thing was clear. This was not about love, not about marriage. This was about control, secrets, and a game far bigger than he could yet see. As the red light blinked from the ceiling, Daniel whispered to himself, "They think I will follow their rules, but I will find out the truth." The alien women turned toward him, their glowing eyes watching, and in that silent moment, destiny shifted closer, waiting for the storm to come. The apartment was dark that night. Only the faint streetlights outside touched the broken blinds. Daniel lay on his bed, but sleep would not come. His mind kept running in circles, replaying the government letter, the strange rules, the blinking camera light. and the faces of the 3 alien women who were now part of his life. The silence of the room was heavy, pressing on his chest. He closed his eyes, but then he heard it, a soft sound, footsteps, careful, almost like someone was afraid to be heard. Daniel sat up slowly, his heart beating faster. The footsteps stopped outside his bedroom door. Then a gentle knock followed. So quiet it could have been mistaken for the wind. "Who's there?" Daniel whispered. The door opened just a crack, and the violet-eyed woman stepped inside. Her glowing eyes caught the dim light, her face pale, her expression troubled. "Do not speak loud," she whispered, her voice trembling. Daniel nodded. Feeling the weight of her words, she walked closer, her bare feet silent on the floor, until she stood right beside his bed. "You must listen," she said, her tone sharper now. "This is important." Daniel leaned forward, his voice low. "What is it?" She glanced up at the red blinking light in the corner of the ceiling, then leaned close to him, so close he could feel the coldness of her breath. "Don't trust them," she whispered. "Not the officers, not the government, not even—" She hesitated, her eyes darting toward the other room where the 2 alien women slept. "Not all of us." Daniel froze, his chest tightening. "What do you mean, not all of you?" he asked, his voice barely a breath. She placed a finger to her lips, silencing him. "They hear more than we think," she murmured, "but you must know. One of us is not what she seems." Daniel's head spun, his mind racing with questions. Which one? Silver hair, blue skin, or even her? How could he know? Before he could ask, she suddenly pulled back, her body stiffening. The sound of movement came from the living room. One of the others had stirred. The violet-eyed woman whispered quickly, her voice urgent. "Pretend you know nothing. Pretend you believe their rules, only then will you survive." Her glowing eyes locked onto his, filled with fear but also with a strange kind of trust. Then she slipped out of the room, leaving Daniel alone with his racing thoughts. He sat there for a long time, staring at the red light. One of them could be a spy. One of them could be working for the government, but which one? The silver-haired woman always spoke with calm strength. Like a leader, the blue-skinned one seemed gentle, almost too fragile, and the violet-eyed one, she was the one who gave the warning. But what if that was her trick? Daniel clenched his fists, the doubt eating away at him the next morning. The air inside the apartment felt colder, heavier. The 3 women sat together at the table, speaking softly in their language. When Daniel entered the room, they all fell silent, their glowing patterns fading as they looked at him. It was like they could sense something had changed. He forced a smile, pretending to be calm. "Do you want tea?" he asked, trying to sound normal. The silver-haired woman nodded, but her eyes lingered on him too long, as if she was reading his thoughts. Daniel's hands shook as he poured hot water into cups. He kept remembering the violet-eyed woman's warning. Don't trust them. It burned in his mind like fire. He placed the cups on the table and sat down. The blue-skinned woman gave him a small smile, shy, almost kind. But then she whispered something to the silver-haired one, and they both glanced at the ceiling camera. Daniel's heart skipped a beat. Were they spies? Or were they prisoners just like him? Later that day, as Daniel stepped outside to throw away trash, he noticed something strange across the street in a black car. 2 men sat watching his apartment, their eyes hidden behind dark glasses. Their faces stone cold. The engine was off, but the car hadn't moved for hours. Daniel felt the hairs on the back of his neck rise. He looked back at his apartment door, and for a moment, he wondered if he had already lost his freedom without realizing it. That night, as he lay in bed again, he kept replaying the warning in his head. Don't trust them, the words repeated over and over, echoing louder than the silence of the room. He turned his head, and in the darkness, he thought he saw the faint glow of alien eyes watching him from the living room. He closed his eyes tightly, unsure if it was real or his imagination. But one thing was certain. He was no longer just Daniel Carter. A man with no future, he was now a piece in a dangerous game. Surrounded by secrets, lies, and enemies disguised as companions, and somewhere among the 3 alien women living under his roof, one of them carried the truth that could destroy him. The apartment was silent again, but the silence felt heavier than before. Daniel lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to every sound, the government's letter, the blinking camera, the officer's threats, and the violet-eyed woman's warning had left his mind restless. Don't trust them. Her words whispered in his head like a shadow that would not leave. Around midnight, Daniel rose from bed and walked quietly to the kitchen. He poured a glass of water, his hands trembling slightly. That's when he noticed movement on the balcony, a figure standing against the faint glow of the city lights. His heart skipped a beat. Slowly, he walked closer and saw her. It was the silver-haired woman. She stood with her arms wrapped around herself, staring out at the city as if she were searching for something far away. Her hair glowed faintly under the moonlight. Her patterns dim, her shoulders tense. Daniel hesitated, then stepped forward. "You can't sleep either?" he asked softly. The woman turned her head, her pale silver eyes meeting his. "No," she whispered, her voice almost breaking. "Sleep does not come easy when you are trapped." Daniel's chest tightened, her words cutting through the night like glass. He looked around at the blinking camera inside, then leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Trapped? You mean here with me?" The woman shook her head quickly, her eyes darting toward the camera. "No, not you," she said, her voice trembling. "We are trapped by them." Her gaze shifted to the dark sky above as if the very stars held chains. Daniel swallowed hard. "Then why are you here? Why would the government send you?" Her hands tightened into fists, her voice filled with pain. "Because we are not wives, Daniel, we are experiments." The words hit him like a blow. His breath caught in his throat. "Experiments?" he whispered. She nodded slowly, her silver hair brushing across her face. "They gave us to you because they want to see how we survive, how we react, how you react to us. They are testing us like animals in a cage." Daniel's mind spun, anger building in his chest. He had suspected something, but hearing it from her made the truth feel like a weight crushing him. His hands clenched. "That's why the rules exist. Why they watch every second." The silver-haired woman looked at him with sorrow. "Yes, and if you break them, they take us away. We never come back." For a long moment, they stood in silence, the sound of the city faint below. Daniel could see her shaking. Her strength cracked open in the moonlight. He reached out slowly, placing a hand on the railing near hers, not touching, but close enough to show he wasn't afraid. "You don't deserve this," he said softly. "None of you do." Tears welled in her pale eyes, but she blinked them back quickly. "You don't understand, Daniel," she whispered. "It's worse than you think. One of us is not truly what she seems." Daniel stiffened, the warning echoing what the violet-eyed woman had told him earlier. "Who?" he asked, his voice sharp but low. The silver-haired woman's lips parted. She leaned closer as if ready to confess, but before she could speak, the door to the balcony creaked open. The blue-skinned woman stood there, her golden patterns glowing faintly in the dark. Her eyes widened as she saw them together. "Too close, too secret. What are you doing?" she asked, her voice calm but filled with suspicion. Daniel's heart pounded. He stepped back quickly. "I couldn't sleep. I just came out for air." The silver-haired woman lowered her gaze, her voice flat now. "Yes, nothing more." The blue-skinned woman studied them for a long moment, then slowly nodded. "Be careful," she said softly. "The walls here have ears." Then she turned and walked back inside, her steps light but heavy with meaning. Daniel looked at the silver-haired woman again, his chest tight. She shook her head, whispering so faintly he almost missed it. "Too dangerous tonight. Another time?" And then she slipped back inside, leaving Daniel alone on the balcony, staring at the city lights that suddenly felt colder than ever. He leaned on the railing, his thoughts burning. Both women had warned him now. One said not to trust them. The other said one of them was not what she seemed. Who was lying? Who was telling the truth, or worse? Were both telling the truth, but about different things? That night, Daniel could not go back to sleep. He sat at the table, staring at the government bracelet on his wrist, the red camera light blinking above. The alien women moved quietly in the other room, their voices low, their glowing patterns flickering like secret codes. He felt like a man caught in a storm, surrounded by shadows he could not escape. But deep inside, he made a silent promise to himself. If they were experiments, if they were prisoners, if they were trapped like him, he would find a way to uncover the truth, even if it cost him everything. And in the quiet darkness of that night, while the city slept and the cameras blinked, Daniel Carter took his first step toward rebellion. Unaware that destiny was already waiting, watching, ready to strike, the days that followed were heavy with silence. Daniel moved through his apartment like a man walking across thin ice. Every word, every glance, every breath was measured, watched by the red blinking camera above. The three alien women lived close together, whispering in their strange language when they thought he wasn't listening, their glowing patterns flickering like secret signals. But Daniel knew one thing now: this was no gift. It was a cage. Each night the warnings haunted him. The violet-eyed woman told him not to trust them. The silver-haired one whispered they were experiments, and the blue-skinned woman always seemed to appear when secrets were near. Daniel could not take it anymore. He decided he had to escape, or at least find a way out of the government's grip. One evening, as the city outside sank into darkness, Daniel called them all together. The women sat at the table, their glowing eyes watching him. Unreadable, he cleared his throat, his voice calm but sharp. "Do you want to stay like this forever?" he asked. The women exchanged cautious looks. The silver-haired one finally spoke. "There is no choice." Daniel leaned forward, lowering his voice. "There's always a choice. We can leave." The blue-skinned woman's eyes widened, her patterns flickering fast. "Leave?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "Do you even know what you are saying? They will hunt us. They will kill us." But Daniel shook his head, his jaw tight. "Better to die free than live like prisoners." The violet-eyed woman stared at him for a long time, her gaze sharp, searching. Then slowly she nodded. "There is a way," she whispered, "but it is dangerous." The silver-haired woman turned to her quickly, her face pale. "No, don't tell him. He doesn't understand." But Daniel pressed on, his voice steady. "Tell me. I need to know." The violet-eyed woman leaned closer, lowering her voice so the camera could not catch her lips. "There are blind spots in the city, places where the government cannot see. If we reach them, we can hide, but the journey itself, many do not survive." Her words sent a shiver through Daniel's spine, but his determination grew stronger. "We'll survive, we have to try." That night, when the city outside had gone quiet, they made their plan. Daniel would disable the camera for a few minutes, long enough to slip out. The alien women knew the back routes of the city, the forgotten alleys where shadows hid secrets. They would travel only at night, moving like ghosts. But as they whispered their plan, Daniel noticed something strange. The blue-skinned woman sat apart, silent, her golden patterns glowing faintly as if reacting to something unseen. She stared at him for a long moment, her eyes filled with conflict. Finally she spoke, her voice trembling. "If you try this, there will be no going back. Daniel, you must understand, escape is not freedom. It may only lead to worse." Daniel's heart pounded. Her words sounded less like a warning and more like a confession. But before he could press her for answers, the silver-haired woman cut in. "We don't have time for doubt," she said sharply. "It's escape or death." The following night, the plan began. Daniel stood on a chair, reaching up to the blinking red camera in the corner. He pulled out wires, his fingers shaking, sparks snapping. For a second, the light blinked faster, then went out. The apartment fell into complete silence. The alien women froze, their glowing eyes wide. "It's done," Daniel whispered, his heart racing. "Let's go." They moved quickly, slipping out of the apartment into the cold night air. The city streets were empty. Only the hum of distant patrol drones echoed in the sky. The women led the way, their steps light. Moving like they had done this before, Daniel followed close, every nerve in his body screaming with fear. They ducked into alleys, climbed over fences, moved through shadows. The violet-eyed woman whispered directions, guiding them toward the blind spots she had spoken of. Daniel felt hope rise in his chest. Maybe they could really escape. But then he noticed something. The blue-skinned woman kept looking back, her eyes darting to the rooftops, her patterns glowing faster, as if she expected someone to be following. Finally, as they reached an abandoned street near the edge of the city, Daniel stopped. He grabbed her arm, whispering urgently, "Why are you so nervous? Do you know something?" Her golden eyes filled with tears, her lips trembling. "I told you. Escape is not freedom," she whispered. "They are already coming." Before Daniel could ask what she meant, a sharp mechanical sound filled the air. From the sky above, red searchlights flashed down, blinding government drones, their engines roaring. The silence of the night shattered, alarms blaring through the empty streets. The silver-haired woman shouted, her voice fierce, "Run!" Daniel's heart slammed in his chest as they scattered into the shadows. The escape plan had begun, but so had the hunt. The night exploded with sound. Red searchlights swept across the broken streets, the roar of government drones echoing like thunder. Daniel and the three alien women ran through the alleys, their shadows stretching long under the flashing beams. The city felt alive with danger, every corner hiding eyes. every rooftop whispering betrayal faster. The silver-haired woman cried, pulling Daniel by the arm. The violet-eyed woman led the way, her glowing marks flickering as she whispered directions in her alien tongue. They ducked into an abandoned warehouse, the walls crumbling, the air filled with dust. For a moment, silence returned, their breaths heavy, their hearts racing. Daniel leaned against the wall, sweat dripping down his face. "That was close," he whispered. The silver-haired woman nodded, her pale eyes sharp. "Too close, they knew exactly where we would go." Her words hit like a knife. Daniel froze, his gaze shifting to the three women. Suspicion heavy in the air. The violet-eyed woman's face hardened. "Someone told them?" The blue-skinned woman looked away quickly, her hands trembling. Daniel's chest tightened. He remembered her words earlier. "They are already coming." He stepped closer, his voice low and dangerous. "You knew, didn't you?" The blue-skinned woman's golden eyes filled with tears, her voice breaking. "I tried to warn you," she whispered. "I didn't want this, but I had no choice." Daniel's blood boiled. "No choice? You led them straight to us." The silver-haired woman hissed, stepping between them, her eyes burning with fury. "You betrayed us," she spat. "You were always theirs." The blue-skinned woman fell to her knees, shaking. "They put something inside me," she cried, her hands pressed to her chest. "A tracker, I cannot hide from them. No matter where we go, they see me, they hear me. I am a cage for all of us." Daniel's anger faltered. His breath caught. A tracker inside her body. That explained why the drones appeared so quickly, why she was always so nervous. The violet-eyed woman clenched her fists, her voice bitter. "You should have told us." Tears ran down the blue-skinned woman's face, glowing as they fell. "I wanted to, but if I told, they would kill me, and now they will kill us all." The silence grew heavy, broken only by the hum of drones outside circling like vultures. Daniel's heart twisted. It was betrayal, but it was also tragedy. She wasn't a willing spy, she was a prisoner in her own body. But still, because of her, their plan was crumbling. The silver-haired woman turned to Daniel, her voice cold. "We cannot run with her if we stay. We all die." Her words were sharp, brutal like steel. The blue-skinned woman gasped, her golden eyes wide with fear. "No, please don't leave me. I never wanted this." Daniel's chest burned, his mind torn apart. Could he really abandon her, leave her behind to save himself and the others? The violet-eyed woman touched his arm, her voice quiet but heavy. "She is marked, Daniel. You must choose." The air grew thick, the choice hanging between life and death, loyalty and survival. Daniel closed his eyes, his fists shaking. Then he whispered, "No, I won't leave her. If she is trapped, then we free her." The silver-haired woman's eyes widened, fury flashing across her face. "You're a fool," she hissed. "You'll doom us all." But Daniel shook his head, his voice steady. "No, the government doomed us. I won't do their work for them." The blue-skinned woman sobbed, her hands trembling as she whispered, "There is a way, but it will hurt." She lifted her sleeve, showing faint glowing lines on her arm. "The tracker is inside, connected to my blood. If you cut it out, they will lose me." "But I may die." Daniel's stomach twisted. The thought of cutting into her flesh made his hands go cold. But outside, the drones drew closer, their red lights shining through cracks in the warehouse walls. They had no time. The violet-eyed woman pulled a shard of metal from the floor, sharp enough to cut. Her voice was cold but determined. "It's this or nothing. Decide now." Daniel knelt beside the blue-skinned woman, his heart pounding. Her golden eyes met his, filled with fear but also hope. "Do it," she whispered. Better pain than chains. With shaking hands, Daniel pressed the shard to her arm. Her scream filled the warehouse, echoing into the night. Glowing blood spilled, her body trembling violently. And then, a small metal chip slid out, pulsing with red light. The violet-eyed woman grabbed it quickly and smashed it under her heel, sparks flying across the dusty floor. The drones outside shifted, their red lights flickering, their hum breaking. Then one by one they veered away. Disappearing into the night, the warehouse fell silent. Heavy breathing the only sound. The blue-skinned woman collapsed, weak and pale but alive. Daniel pressed a cloth to her wound, whispering, "You're free now." Tears rolled down her face, glowing faintly. "For the first time," she whispered, "I am free." The silver-haired woman stared at Daniel, her pale eyes filled with something between anger and awe. "You risked everything for her," she said quietly. You may have just doomed us or saved us. Daniel looked down at the broken tracker, sparks still glowing faintly. For the first time since the government's letter arrived, he felt a spark of hope, but deep inside he knew this was only the beginning. The government would not give up so easily, and Destiny's storm was far from over. The warehouse was silent except for the sound of heavy breathing. Daniel knelt beside the blue-skinned woman, pressing cloth to her bleeding arm. Her golden eyes fluttered weakly, but for the first time there was peace in them. The tracker was gone, smashed into dust, yet Daniel knew the government would not stop. They had lost their control, and that meant war was coming. The silver-haired woman paced back and forth, her pale eyes sharp with worry. They know now, she whispered. They will come in force, soldiers, machines, everything. We cannot hide anymore. The violet-eyed woman nodded, her expression dark. They will not forgive this. We are no longer subjects in their experiment. We are threats. Daniel looked at the three of them. His chest heavy. He had never asked for this life, never asked for wives, rules, or betrayal. But now he stood at the center of something greater than himself. And the choice was his: run, surrender, or fight. He stood, his fists clenched, his voice firm. Then we fight. The silver-haired woman froze, staring at him. You don't understand, Daniel. Humans who resist are erased. Aliens who resist are slaughtered. You cannot win. But Daniel shook his head, his eyes burning. Maybe not. But I won't live on my knees if destiny gave me this. Then I'll carry it. The blue-skinned woman weakly tried to rise. Her wound still fresh. Her voice trembled but carried strength. Then we fight with you. The violet-eyed woman stepped forward, her glowing pattern sparking brighter than ever. They wanted to use us as tools. They forgot that even tools can break their masters. Moments later, the roar of engines filled the night through the broken warehouse windows. Daniel saw the lights of armored vehicles rolling into the streets. Drones swarmed above, their red eyes scanning. Soldiers in black armor moved like shadows, weapons gleaming under the harsh beams. The government had come to finish it. Daniel's heart thundered, but fear was gone, replaced by a strange calm. He turned to the alien women, his voice steady. This is our stand. If we die free. The battle began with fire. Drones burst through the windows, their engines screaming, red beams cutting across the warehouse floor. The violet-eyed woman lifted her hands, her glowing marks flaring like lightning. With a scream, she sent a wave of energy crashing through the air, shattering 3 drones at once, sparks raining like falling stars. The silver-haired woman leapt forward, her body moving faster than human eyes could follow. She struck soldiers with inhuman strength, her pale hair whipping in the storm of violence. The blue-skinned woman, even weak, raised her trembling hands. Golden light spilling from her palms, she formed a barrier around Daniel, shielding him from a hail of bullets, her face twisted in pain. But she held on, whispering, "Not this time. I will not be their cage again." Daniel grabbed a broken pipe from the floor, swinging it with raw fury. He was no soldier, but in that moment, he fought like one. Every strike, every shout, every breath carried the weight of defiance. The government had chosen the wrong man to control. The battle raged, the warehouse walls shaking, smoke filling the air. Yet through the chaos, Daniel felt something more than fear. He felt unity. 3 alien women who had been forced into chains now stood free beside him, fighting not as prisoners but as family. But the enemy was endless. For every drone that fell, 2 more appeared. For every soldier struck down, another stormed in. Daniel's arms ached, his breath burned, but he refused to fall. At last, a voice thundered through loudspeakers outside, cold and merciless. "Daniel Carter, surrender now. Return the subjects and you will be spared." Daniel staggered to the shattered doorway, his chest heaving. He looked at the line of armored vehicles outside, soldiers lined up like machines. His answer was simple, his voice raw but unbroken. "They're not your subjects, they're mine, my family, and I will never give them back." The silver-haired woman stepped beside him, her hand brushing his. "You chose us," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. The blue-skinned woman smiled faintly, tears glowing on her cheeks. "You freed me?" The violet-eyed woman looked at him with fierce pride. "And now we stand together." The soldiers raised their weapons. The drones closed in, but before they could strike, the 3 alien women unleashed their true power. Silver light, violet fire, and golden shields exploded together. The warehouse shook like thunder, the ground trembling under the force. Daniel raised his voice in a final cry, charging forward with them into the storm. The night sky burned with light, the city shook with the clash. And though no one knew what tomorrow would bring, one thing was certain. Daniel Carter was no longer just a man chosen by the government. He was a man chosen by destiny, and destiny had other plans.